What's good, everybody? You already know. Mr. Awesome here, back at it again with yet another video. I'm, back representing Optimus Prime today. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you like the background. I'm, showing off a little bit more of my personality with various comic book and superhero characters and video game characters that have inspired me one way, shape, or form, but we'll get into them later. I also do need to find, something in this area right here just to satisfy my OCD, because other than that, it's going to drive me absolutely insane watching this video, but that's beside the point. First and foremost, I want to check in with you all. Hope you all are doing well. These last weeks for me, I know it's been a while since I posted, has been, interesting to say the least, but, overcoming challenges and tribulations, but hey, that's the life of a superhero in training after all, am I right? We're always going to have something new to overcome, whether it's external or internal, but I will tell you that, as long as you, remain strong, be strong, and stay strong, anything is possible to overcome. But that brings me to the topic of today's video. In the last video, I talked about the start of a hero's journey and how I'm going to dedicate the next 6 months and beyond to really self-improvement stuff, but most importantly, these next 6 months to kind of really redefine myself, really reimagine myself, and just kind of start over from scratch in a sense, because honestly, there's been a lot of things that, could be better with my life, just to say the least. But I figure there's no better place to start than at the very bottom, at the foundation of any, at the very foundation, I should say. You can't really, if you build off of a weak foundation, the whole tower is gonna, be weak, and it's gonna topple eventually. So it's most important right now at the start of anything you do is to have a really strong base. And in this case, for me personally, I'm gonna talk about 10 values that I feel like every, person, or at least me specifically, should have. These values may not be the same for me as they are for you, but I encourage you, if you're gonna start something new, start from scratch. You really gotta start with strong values. And I do wanna make the distinction between values and principles. Values is the topic of today's episode will be things that are more permanent. Values don't really change as you go on. You choose your values, you live by them, and they rarely ever change as you go about life. Whereas principles, something I'll talk about in the next video, they typically change based on your current circumstances and stuff like that, and they evolve as you evolve as well. So your principles, today may not be the principles you have tomorrow, or the ones that you have, this year may not be the same principles that you have next year. But like I said, we're going to talk about values, which is something that's really important to me, something that I've been discussing a lot to myself lately, and something that's really going to be important for not only my self-development, but for yours as well. So if you don't have any values yet, or if you always find yourself switching or tiptoeing between values, this is the video for you. We're gonna write them down, we're gonna log them, and we're gonna stick to them. Okay, so I really encourage you to really take time to think hard about 10 values. There doesn't have to be a whole essay about them, but just 10 things. It doesn't have to, if it's 5, do 5, but 10 I feel like is a good base. 10 things that you just want to live by and not change no matter what, no matter the circumstances, no matter the what you're feeling in the moment, no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what's happening to you. Really take this time to think hard about it, because like I said, the idea is to have these values and stick with them for the long term and not the short term. Now, to start this list off, I'm going to start from the top down, and starting off with number 10, and that is wisdom. Now, wisdom, people think that it's something that you acquire as you grow older and stuff. Wisdom, with age comes wisdom, as the saying goes. But not necessarily. Wisdom is really formed through your experiences, and most importantly, not just from your experiences, but if you learn from them and what you learn from those said experiences. You could be old and still a fool if you don't learn from all the things that you've done throughout your life. And if you've experienced enough at a certain age, you definitely could be wiser than most people. Now, my life isn't that crazy and stuff like that, but like I said, I do like to read and consume a lot of different content. So not only have I gained wisdom from my own experiences, but I've gained wisdom from other people too, which is the beauty in it, because you don't necessarily have to, experience something directly to gain wisdom from it. It can get passed down to you from someone, who's experienced that said thing prior to you. The reason why I chose wisdom as my number 10 is because, if we don't really learn from our past, we're doomed to repeat it. And when you don't utilize wisdom in your decisions and things like that, you're gonna make the same mistakes as you did prior, and it's gonna be really hard to develop and grow. Now, like I said, I'm choosing wisdom as my value, but that does not mean that, hey, I was perfect in the past. But now that I'm really identifying it and making it more concrete in my head, I'm definitely going to use more wisdom as I, experience more things in life and grow older and stuff like that. That way, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna make any mistakes in life, but I'll make fewer and fewer as I go about it. Now, I've always been a man of action. I've always got to be doing something. I can't really just sit around doing nothing. Even when I'm doing nothing, I'm always doing something, and I always got ideas and stuff going through my head. And like I said, I wasn't always perfect when it came to action, but I always had ideas and I always like to do things. So, you can't really grow unless you start to do stuff. You can't just sit around and expect life to change for you. You really have to take action, take that initiative, and go forward with it. So action is really important, especially I feel like as for me personally, as a man, no one's gonna do it for you. As a saying that I like to say is, as a saying I have is, be your own hero. Because while I say we all are our own superheroes, I say that because we have to be the one to save ourselves. And in order to actually save ourselves is to make action, which is kind of the whole point of this YouTube channel and my podcast and stuff like that. I'm actually making deliberate action towards my goals. And right now my goals is to become the best version of myself possible. Taking action, have a plan, write it down, and start to implement that, turn that plan into something, action. Number 8 is resilience. When you're going about life, taking action and stuff, you're bound to encounter challenges along the way. It's natural, Every great story has its own fair share of challenges. Every great hero has to overcome some type of adversity. But the reason they're able to overcome that adversity is through resilience. They never give up. They don't let, they may not win every battle, but they don't let those battles destroy them or stop them. Think about the Avengers. If you're an MCU fan, Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, they lost in Infinity War. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it already. It's 2022, but they lost. And for 5 years, they kind of just gave up. And for 5 years, they kind of lived in, they just kind of try to go about life, almost aimlessly, trying to find a new purpose. But they still had that resilience, and when they had that hope and they found a way, they had resilience to keep pushing through it. And then when it came down to Avengers Endgame, they were trying to bring everyone back, and they encountered challenges along the way. Things didn't always go according to plan, but they never gave up. They had that resilience, and I feel like that's really important for myself and probably for you too. Life isn't going to be perfect. Nothing is going to, you could write a plan and, go about it, but nothing is ever going to go according to plan. It really takes that resilience to, that, separates the winners from the losers. Like I said, you're not going to win every single battle, but just because you lose does not make you a loser. You're really only a loser if you quit and you let that thing defeat you. Don't give up, reevaluate, replan, reclaim your prize, but just, have that resilience. Number 7 is selflessness. With this one, selflessness, like every hero, we're not just in it for ourselves. Now, I know I just said be your own hero, but at the same time, if you're able to help other people, you should, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be necessarily remembered for the things you did, but for the way you made people feel. I think that's a Maya Angelou quote. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that's real, acts of service is really important. That's what separates a hero from a villain, because heroes do things in service of other people, whereas villains, they do things for themselves and themselves only. And when you only think about yourself, you're not gonna make a lot of friends that way, and you're gonna hurt people. You're gonna negatively impact the world around you. And personally, for me, that's not something that I want to live by. I definitely want to be remembered as someone who, people think that, hey, Mr. Awesome, they helped me out. They're a good person, and while I may not be perfect, I want to do my best to just leave people better than the way I found them. Anyway, I love to help people. There's no better feeling in the world than to when someone comes to you with something that they need help with, and you're able to solve their problems for them, and it just puts a smile on their face. They're really grateful and stuff like that. There's no better feeling in the world for that for me. So selflessness, I feel like, is definitely on that top 10 list for me. Number 6 is compassion. Now, similar to selflessness, compassion, they kind of overlap in a way, but selflessness is kind of more of an external thing, whereas compassion is more of an internal factor. I feel like I know that compassion, if you're really trying to be the best hero you can be, compassion is really the true sign of a hero or any man or woman. This is a harsh world we live in. Things aren't perfect. Things are not positive, especially in the times that we live in through. But it's good to have that, and it's really important to really have that compassion for other people. So you may not understand everyone's struggle. You may not be able to help everyone's struggle. But do what you can to have that compassion and not make their struggle or make the overall struggle even worse. Do what you can to make, to help them out as possible. But if you can't, just, empathize with them and just listen to, be there for them, be there as a way of support, and just try to understand things, stuff like that. I kind of have a cheat sheet on the side if you've already peeked, but like I said, this ain't gonna be perfect. But number 5, we're getting into the nitty gritty. Number 5 for me is integrity. So this is really important to me, and this is something that I definitely need to improve upon myself, and having that integrity. Figure without integrity, it's really hard for people to trust you. They say integrity is not what you do when people are watching you, but it's what you do when people are not watching you. Can you do the right thing, when you're not under a microscope? Can you do the right thing when you're not in the public eye? That really separates the good from the bad, in my opinion. Like I said, this is not gonna claim I was ever perfect at that in the past, but this is something I'm definitely gonna be more mindful of in the future. Because integrity, think about integrity, it may not always go in your favor. Thinking selfishly, people compromise their integrity for short-term gains, so that's what they think at least. But in the long-term effect, with lack of integrity is inherently deceitful, and that's not good for anybody. It's self-destructive at least, and it's destructive to those around you at the worst-case scenario, and that's not a good feeling for me. I don't know. I have a really strong guilty conscience, and I just can't knowingly put someone in a bad situation without feeling bad about it. And I definitely don't want to make people feel bad when I can help it. I know you can't control everyone's feelings about you, but with that being said, don't use that as an excuse to not try to help them feel better and not to do the right thing. Don't think selfishly. Use integrity to make your decisions, and I guarantee you, you'll live a more fulfilling life that way. That's how it is for me. Integrity may not be your top 5, but hey, that's how it is for me. That's what I'm going to live by from now on. Ooh, we're getting to my favorites now. Number 4, ambition. Like these characters behind me, especially the blue one right there, that's Vegeta, if you hadn't guessed it. But ambition is always something, it's just that drive to go for the next task, to go for something bigger and bigger. I figure, like I said, the ambition does not have to be your thing, but for me personally, ambition, if I don't have ambition, I feel lost in life. I'm not the type to just coast in life, and I'm not the type to just remain comfortable where he is for a long period of time. I know everyone has their own journey, everyone grows at their own different rate, but the thing is that you're growing. You never stop growing. Without ambition, you're gonna stop growing, and you're gonna stagnate in life. And if that's okay with you, so be it, by all means. But for me, no, lack of ambition is like death almost. So ambition, number 4. Number 3, similar to my guy right here, Vegeta, is pride. Now, pride is a little controversial. Too much pride can be a bad thing. Pride before the fall. But I feel like it's important for me because that's something that I definitely lacked in the past, was having pride. Pride for myself, pride for the things that I've done and the things that I have achieved. I've always tried to minimize and hold myself back in a sense because I thought I was almost too arrogant. But the opposite of crazy is still crazy. Lack of arrogance is low self-esteem, and I don't want to be in that situation anymore. I feel like for a long time I've held myself back from my true potential, and I didn't really put a lot of heart and a lot of pride in the things that I've done, and the things that I've accomplished, and the way I've treated myself and other people. But most importantly, myself. I didn't have that pride in myself to put myself first and make sure that I'm okay. I didn't have that pride to, chase my dreams and not let anything stop me. and it cost me some things in the future. And ultimately, while tough decisions are made, I don't regret anything that I've done in the past, but I'm definitely going to pull from that wisdom and learn from that, and just, be more prideful about myself. Number 2 is loyalty. Now, this one's definitely something that I can definitely see some improvement in. Loyalty to not only myself, loyalty to those around me. And I figure loyalty is super important to me because without loyalty, there is no trust, similar to integrity. And I need to be able to trust you. If there's no trust or loyalty within any relationship that you form, you can't form deep, fulfilling relationships. Everything's going to be surface level. Everything's going to be short term and transactional. And that's only, you can't sustain off of that alone. I guarantee you, if you can have loyalty with someone, don't break that. And also expect loyalty in return as well. Don't compromise the lack of loyalty for whatever reason. And like I said, this is a big lesson for myself personally, but if you're going through that as well, remain loyal to yourself. At the end of the day, not to be super selfish, but you do have to be loyal. If you're compromising your values and your integrity and your principles for other things, you're not really loyal to yourself. You're not aligned with those values, and it's only going to negatively impact you. And that's what happened with me. I wasn't loyal to myself, importantly, and it caused me to be, act outside of my values, act unaligned with my values. It caused me to be disloyal to other people around me, and those relationships are damaged, if not destroyed. But nothing is permanent. People can change, I feel like, for most cases at least, and it's never too late to try to become better and improve in some aspects. So loyalty has definitely risen higher up on my list. It should have been almost number 1, but when you hear number 1, you'll understand why loyalty came in as a high number 2. And to wrap it up with the most important value that I am going to live by, and that is number 1, respect. Similar to respect kind of encompasses everything that I've talked about. Loyalty, integrity, pride, ambition, stuff like that. And it's just respecting yourself, respecting other people. Let's be real, you're not gonna get along with a lot of people in the world. You can't make friends with everyone. It's impossible. But hey, have that mutual respect. If you disagree with someone, don't lash out at them. You don't have to. Just politely disagree and go your own separate ways if possible. Ideal world, hey, you could disagree with someone, but you could respect them enough as a human being to just commingle and coexist. Respect your friends and your partners and stuff like that. Don't talk down on them. Don't act like you're better than them, because no one is better than anyone else. And try to meet them where they are and grow together if possible. And most importantly, respect yourself. If you're not receiving that respect from someone, you need to have that self-respect and that pride and that loyalty to yourself to pull yourself out of that situation. You're not responsible for their actions. You can't control what they do, but you can control how you react to it. And anybody with enough self-respect would not put themselves in a situation to where they could be harmed when they know they could be harmed. Like I said, that's something that I definitely wasn't the best at in the past, but like I said, I'm really trying to build from the ground up. So these next 6 months and beyond, you can best believe that I will start to use respect in any situation that I'm in. Now, that's my list. I hope you enjoyed it, and if my list is different from yours, I would definitely like to hear your list and why. Like I said, everyone's list is going to be different, but the point is to just have something written down in concrete. Write it down physically and staple it to stick it to your wall, so that way you can read over it every single day and memorize it and ingrain it into your brain. So that way, whenever you're in a situation and it doesn't align with your values, or you're acting misaligned with your values, you can check yourself. You can just correct it along the way sooner rather than later. When you don't know what you're doing, you're just kind of coasting through life. You're like a leaf on a lake. You're going to go in any direction that life pulls you. But I want you to be more intentional and driven with yourself, like I will be with myself. And the foundation, like I said, we're building from the ground up here. And you need to have a strong foundation. And the strongest foundation is to have core values that you stick with no matter what. Like I said, it doesn't have to be 10. It could be 3 main values. It could be 5. Try not to have too many because you'll fall for everything. But as the saying goes, a man who stands for nothing will fall for everything. And I'm definitely guilty of that too. And that's something that I do never want to encounter again in my life. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends and family if you feel like anybody can relate to the message and grow from it as well. It'll help the movement grow. Stay tuned for the next video where we're going to be discussing principles to live by. And with that being said, as always, have a nice day.